all this love is waiting for you, my brother, my sister. All this love is waiting for you. Come on, sing all this love is waiting for you, my brother, my sister, my sister. All this love is waiting for you, my neighbor, my family. Come on, sing all this love is waiting for you, my brother, my sister, yeah. My sister. Sing all this love is waiting for you, my neighbor, my family. Sing all this love is waiting for you, my brother, my sister, yeah. My sister. Sing all this love is waiting for you, my neighbor, my family. Can you play it one time?
From somewhere.
What's going on, family? What's going on? Welcome to this special edition of Holy Smokes and Real Talk. I am Christian Smith. What's up, Josh? Good to see you. Good to see everybody. When you come in, say hello, whether you're with us on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you are in the Holy Smokes group. Wherever, say hello to us. We looking forward to this conversation in true TFC fashion. For those who don't know me, if this is your first time encountering the faith community, I'm Christian A. Smith. I'm the pastor of this rowdy bunch of people. And after tonight, we'll see if that lasts. I don't know, they might vote me out because I've gotten a lot of concern from even some of the people on this panel about tonight's conversation. So I want to welcome you to the Gospel According to Lil Nas X. This has been such a cultural phenomenon over the past 5 days, and there has been so much chatter about it, so much condemnation, and I just want us to really dig into it and see where some of that is coming from, and talk about some of the inferences in the video and some of the implications. So we got some people here from the faith community. Do me a favor, share this. If you're on Facebook, click the share button. If you're on YouTube, share the link with somebody who you know will be interested in this conversation. Share. The person doesn't have to agree with you on the topic. As a matter of fact, if it's somebody that you know is totally opposed to this video, invite them to the conversation to just hear, because I don't think there's any harm in engaging people and listening to what they have to say, especially considering the fact that a whole lot of people who've been condemning this video didn't even watch it. But let me start here before we get into some introductions of these wonderful people here on the screen with me. I want to tell you, first of all, the faith community is a church based in Atlanta. Holy Smokes is a movement that is birthed out of the faith community. Well, we have a podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms. At the faith community, we are committed to being disruptive, authentic, and inclusive. We take those words seriously. In the words of Tyranny AT&T Jordan, words mean things. So we don't just say them to be saying them. We really mean it when we say we're disruptive, authentic, and inclusive. So I want you to know out the gate what we're not here to do. Okay. before you get your box of briefs in a bunch, let me tell you what we're not here to do. We're not here to convince you that you should like Lil Nas X's video. All right. We're also not here to convince you that you should be a fan of Lil Nas X. We're not here to convince you that you should invite him to perform at your churches. Just not doing any of that. Okay. So just calm down. All right. We just having a conversation. We're not trying to convince you of any of that stuff. Here's what we are here to do. We do want to discuss the theological imagery in the video. We do want to discuss the circumstances that led to this artistic expression. And we want to discuss the influence of the video on culture. So that's what we're here to talk about. Okay. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have concerns, please do share them. We probably won't be able to get to all of them tonight, but we would definitely love to hear what your thoughts are as we go through this discussion tonight. So tonight we have some people with us who represent the faith community, and I'm super excited. I really love doing ministry and doing life with these great people. And I want everybody to take an opportunity to introduce yourselves. By the way, if you're watching, make sure you share. Make sure you click the share button and say hello if you're in there watching. So I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves. And when you introduce yourself tonight, I want you to tell us who you are. And then I want you to tell us about a time you can remember the church tried to cancel somebody's artistic expression. All right. So if you can think of a time the church tried to cancel somebody's artistic expression, I want you to share that in your introduction. And for those of you who are with us, share in the comments of a time you recall the church trying to cancel somebody's artistic expression. I am going to start with Grace and the Pundit. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a time you can remember the church trying to cancel somebody's artistic expression.
Hey everyone, I am Grayson Hester. My pronouns are he, him, his. And in the Holy Smokes sphere of TFC, they call me the pundit because I'm very opinionated, but more so because I unleash an unholy torrent of puns all the time. And a time that the church tried to cancel an artistic expression was the time the church tried to cancel me for being gay because I'm an artistic expression of the image of God.
Well, all right then. Thank you, Grayson. Yeah, we got some shots fired right there. Out the gate.
But I also want to say more literally, the 80s were a time of satanic panic when you saw the rise of hair metal and other forms of metal. The church was in an uproar and tried to cancel that because of the supposed satanic imagery and what it might do to the children. And Madonna was also part of that with all of her shenanigans. So this is kind of tapping into the same vein.
Gotcha. Yes. All right, cool. Thank you, sir. Let's kick it over to Tyranny AT&T Jordan. Introduce yourself, madam.
Hello, like you said, I am Tierney Jordan. In Holy Smokes world, they call me AT&T because I am Madam All the Things. So a moment in church history where the church tried to cancel someone was, I'm thinking back to like the 90s when they tried to cancel Kirk Franklin for like Stomp. Angela said it in the chat earlier as well. So not this new commotion, but I'm talking about in the 90s when he first came out with the music and people were like, oh, this is too hip hop for the church. And so they definitely wanted to cancel him.
Yes. Lately, I've been going through some things that really got me down. Yes. All right. Let's kick it over. We're introducing somebody to the Holy Smokes family and to the TFC family for the first time outside of a singing space. We're really excited to have this dude here. I'm excited for you to meet him. We don't have a moniker for Dion yet, but we're gonna figure one out. So Dion, just get ready because you got to have a moniker. But go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us about a time you recall the church trying to cancel somebody's artistic expression.
Okay, what's up, everybody? My name is Dion Davis. And a time that I remember the church trying to cancel someone for their artistic expression. There's a few that come to mind, like Beyonce with Self-Titled, Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl, Game of Thrones, for a lot of, yeah. Anyway, those are the ones. That's what I got.
You're such an overachiever.
Thank you.
I love it. Yes, multiple. All right, let's kick it over. We have Callie here with us. Callie is known to the Holy Smokes community as KSMR. When you hear her voice, you will understand why. It's a play on the term ASMR. She's also known as the Bob Ross of ministry. And if you don't know who Bob Ross is, back in the day on the, what was it, PBS? He was the guy who had the afro and he had the beard. And, he just talked like this. And he would say, oh, we're going to put a little bird right here in the tree. That's Callie. Callie, introduce yourself. Tell us about a time the church tried to cancel somebody's artistic expression.
Well, hello. There are no accidents, just happy incidents of greats. Sorry. What's up, y'all? I'm Callie, KSMR. And a time when the church tried to cancel someone for their artistic expression. Britney Spears in the early 2000s. And by the church, I specifically mean me as a part of the church. I remember our youth group being super, super concerned about what are you letting your spirit absorb when you're listening to stuff but not actually hearing it? And so I vividly remember me and some of my best friends pulling out our Britney Spears CDs out of our Walkmans because, millennials, and literally snapping them into pieces and throwing them in the trash.
Wow.
So not just the church, but me. Hashtag free Britney.
I love it. All right, let's kick it over to Myron the Mystic. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, folks. It's so good to see y'all again. I love this, that we all back together to talk about this weird video. I'm super geeked to be with you. First off, Dion, I don't know what microphone you got, but you sound like Barry White. I mean, you sing a high tenor, but you talk a deep D. I need to get whatever microphone you have because I need that in my life. But here we go, folks. I'll never forget the year is 1992. And all Sister Mary Clarence wanted to do was bring some publicity to the convent. She just wanted to help the people. And Mother Superior tried to cancel her and said that music was ungodly. But I am still being ministered to. But I will follow him wherever he may go. Right, Sister Mary Clarence. They tried to cancel her. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forgive the church for that. I'll never forgive the church.
For those who have seen Sister Act, you know what that man is talking about. For those who haven't, like Grayson the Pundit, Lord have mercy.
You've never seen Sister Act, Grayson? Oh my God.
Exactly.
We ain't talking about this right now. This is not about me.
Exactly. He's never seen Sister Act. Well, look, I'm excited to have each of you. Everybody here is a part of the faith community in some shape, form, or fashion. And many of us are really passionate about theology and pop culture at the same time. So a lot of times we do see those connections. So that's kind of why we're here. Again, my name is Christian A. Smith. I am the pastor of the faith community at Holy Smokes. I'm known as the Heretic. And a time where I can remember and I won't say remember like I lived it, but I read about it and I heard about it, which was really interesting because when I was born, Ray Charles was like my dad's favorite artist. My dad loved Ray Charles. And when I started doing research into who Ray Charles was and into his background, I found out that the church tried to cancel Ray Charles early in his career because he was able to merge gospel and R&B in certain ways. And he actually rewrote a gospel song and turned it into an R&B song, and preachers were condemning him from the pulpit. So the church tried to cancel Ray Charles. Imagine if the church succeeded in canceling Ray Charles. Ray Charles made way for the Motown sound. So think about who came out of Motown. Ray Charles set it up for Motown. What if the church canceled Ray Charles? We wouldn't have Motown. Can you imagine a world without the Motown sound? All right. So that makes me think to myself, go ahead.
Would you expect people who walk by faith and not by sight to have good foresight?
So that's why we call Grayson the pundit, because he literally thinks in puns. So yeah, that's Grayson. So that makes me oh yes, the church tried to cancel the Clark sisters. Come on now. See, there you go, Pope. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So there have been all types of situations where the church has tried to cancel somebody's artistic expression. And many times, like in the case of Ray Charles, the person the church tried to cancel was somebody that paved the way for another artist, which makes me wonder, if we allow the church to cancel Lil Nas X, whose ministry, whose gift, whose artistic expression might we miss out on in the future, is what that causes me to think about. So what I want to do as we get into this riveting topic is I want Grayson the pundit to go ahead real quick and just give us an introduction to the theme of the video Montero. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons, because, you know, it's just good to establish what the video was about. And then also, a lot of people who've been condemning the video actually never even watched it. So this might help some of y'all who are in here butthurt right now to actually find out what the video was about. So Grayson, if you will go ahead and give us a little, you know, brief rundown of the video, we'd appreciate that.
For sure. So I do need to say first that as soon as y'all trolled me, Lil Nas X style, about me not having seen Sister Act, my phone blew up with like 2 or 3 people who are watching on this stream, either texting me or DMing me about how appalled they are. One person said they would mail me a copy. I'm looking at you, Austin Taylor. So I can't stand the spiritual warfare.
We're all appalled, Grayson. We all are appalled. Okay, just to be clear.
It's warranted. So when Christian asked me to ask this question, or to go over this synopsis, I had to clarify, and I think it's important to clarify for those who are listening. This isn't an analysis, because we have seen that, and you can look at it from so many different angles. So this is more, like he said, a synopsis. I just want to clarify those terms, just so we can adjust our expectations accordingly. So the video starts with "Call Me by Your Name" in this like fancy lettering. The sky is like really blue or pink, and it looks very Garden of Eden. It's the proper term is Edenic, but it looks Garden of Eden-ish. And Lil Nas X, whose birth name is Montero, has a voiceover where I'm going to butcher it, but he says something essentially like, we all have these parts of ourselves that we want to hide, that we want to keep away from the world, but not here, not in Montero. So he kind of like makes Montero his own name, sort of a metaphor for, shalom, you could say, Eden, you could say, a place where there is no shame, a place where you don't have to hide anything about yourself. So then we zoom into Lil Nas X, who is literally every character in the whole thing, who is sitting underneath a tree. He's dressed in like, kind of looks like alien battle gear. He's got long brown dreads, playing a guitar. He's looking all peaceable and happy. And then a serpent comes by, and then this like alien version of himself comes by, and he starts getting tempted by this alien version. And the serpent, of course, we can guess what that stands for. This alien version, and he start to kiss. It's very sensual and steamy and weird and campy and queer. And then after this moment of, timeline might be off, but that happens. And then Lil Nas X is running through this Montero Garden of Eden place. And he starts seeing himself everywhere, almost like accusingly. Like he sees him popping up in flowers, sees him popping up in the sky, kind of like Lion King-esque, remember who you are. And then he can't avoid himself anymore after having this moment of eating from this knowledge of good and evil about himself, coming out, as it were. So then it flashes to him being chained. He's wearing a pink wig, fabulously, and he's chained, and there are people mocking him in an assembly. They are all wearing blue wigs, so gender plays into this. People representing masculinity are attacking him, who's representing femininity, for being feminine as a black man. And he is then in a court, and they condemn him, knock him out. He falls on the ground, and then he turns into this like shadow, shimmery spirit being who's ascending up into what we can say is heaven. There's a figure in the shadows up above, and then Lil Nas X does a a skirt of the lifetime, and then a pole descends out of nowhere. His outfit changes into the iconic and very controversial hip-length boots, boxer briefs, long red dreads, shirtless outfit that he then pole dances to hell, gets down there. He struts down to Satan's throne, where Satan is sitting there like this with his hands on his knees. And then, of course, the part that everyone knows, whether or not they've watched the video, is Lil Nas X then starts to lap dance, grind on, and basically dominate Satan, colonize the colonizer, as it were. And then eventually stands up, snaps Satan's neck, and then takes off the horns and the wings from Satan, puts on his own head. He sprouts wings. His eyes glow red. He goes, ooh, and then the video ends.
Thank you for the synopsis, Grayson. Yo, I didn't even there was one part in there I didn't even pick up on, the part about the people with the blue wigs representing masculinity, like oppressing him with the pink wig. I didn't even pick up on that. That's good. So here's what I want to ask. Now go ahead. It's why what?
It's why I've literally been thinking about it nonstop for a week.
Yes. Let me tell you, anyway, Grayson has been so excited about this, like he hasn't been able to contain himself. If I get fired from the faith community, I'm blaming Grayson. So this is what I want to do, because not many people have talked about their initial reaction to the video, right? Like we get a lot of people who are saying, oh, great artistic expression. And some people are like saying, he sold his soul to the devil. This is demonic. And a lot of times those people haven't even seen the video. So hopefully, you got a little synopsis of what the video looked like. But everybody here has seen the video at least once. So I want everybody to share, what was your initial reaction when you saw the video? And I'll start. Like when I first saw it, like, because everybody kept talking about it. It came up in my feed like multiple times before I watched it. And people kept saying, can you believe this? And I was like, oh God, let me go see what got everybody upset. So I turned the video on, and I've never watched a Lil Nas X video. I'm not personally a fan. I don't dislike him, but that's just not the type of music that I listen to. So I watched the video, and at first I was like, And then, when he was getting persecuted, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like visually, and the little tongue action in the beginning, I was like, that was a bit much for me, but all right, we'll keep going. And then he went down into hell, and he started giving Satan a lap dance. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then when he snapped Satan's neck, I was like, oh, that's where he was going. And like that made everything make sense for me. So I just thought like, oh, this was like a really cool artistic expression, that it didn't appeal to me in the same way that it does to his fans, but I'm cool with that because he didn't make it for me. I'm not his fan base. And I don't have to like it. I don't have to be a fan of it and want to watch it all the time for me to understand what he was trying to convey. So that's just my initial reaction. T, what was your initial reaction to it?
So similar to what you said, my initial reaction was based on the fact that everybody on Facebook and Instagram could not stop talking about this video. So then I had to go watch it. And I was like, oh, okay, I like the video. The song, not so much. You can miss me with that. I don't really need the words part. But the imagery was really nice. And, you know, like I'm a very visual learner and like theology is my bag, especially as it relates to pop culture. So I was just picking all the hints out and I had to watch a couple times to pick everything up. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go. But yeah, like I said, I like the video. I like the artistic expression. The song was, it's a song, but yeah.
Thank you. And you know, like one thing about TFC, we're authentic. We're not gonna like try to act like we like something more than we did. If we like it, we like it, and if we didn't, we didn't. This is not about our personal preference. Like we're here to talk about, you know, the overarching theme and what has people all upset. And also, I also want to make a note here that at TFC, that inclusive piece is inclusive on many levels. So we're inclusive of same gender loving people. We're inclusive of transgender people, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, everything in between. Like we mean that. So the feedback you're getting from us today is a mixed bag of all of that. So not everybody here is heterosexual. You know, not everybody here is same gender loving. Like it's a mixed bag, but we exist together in community. Go figure. Some of us really like the song and others like don't really care for it, but we still seem to coexist. Go figure. Dion, what was your initial reaction when you saw the video?
So it was sort of just kind of like, oh, cool. Really? I didn't feel any type of way. I did think that it was interesting how he decided to do the music video, like using the sort of Garden of Eden scene, and then the persecution, and then sliding on a stripper pole down to hell, giving the devil a lap dance, and then killing the devil. Like, I thought it was pretty boss. I didn't really feel any weird about it. I was like, cool, I vibe.
I did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, yes.
Callie, what about you?
Yeah, so I think for me, you know, I actually watched it because Grayson, you had started posting a whole bunch of stuff about it. And so I was like, well, if Grayson saw something significant here, I best ought to watch it. So I watched it, and there are a couple of parts that, frankly, were just too sensual for my taste. You know, to each their own. But I was like, okay, interesting. Definitely seeing some like Bible themes here. This is cool. And then kind of like you, Christian, when it got to the end and he killed the devil, I was like, ah, interesting. So my interest was really piqued by that thought of, by simply being who he was / who, like everything that he had been condemned to hell for by those people, he was able to overcome the evil and the hate. And that to me was just really powerful. So like overall, just like, it's a song. But then the ending, I think, really stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Myron, tell us what you thought, sir.
Now listen,
and if you don't, and I was with you when you saw it the first time, so I need you to tell the truth, because if you don't, I'm gonna tell on you.
Honest to goodness truth here. I'm gonna tell the truth. I thought, boy, this is some weird shit. I said, this is creepy as hell. I watched it and I was like, man, what is this? I was taken aback because I remember Lil Nas X as I'm gonna take my horse to the Old Town Road, which was the song of the summer, you know, back in 2018. And then to watch this video, it was uncharacteristic of what I knew about Lil Nas X. So I was taken aback by it. But since then, I've watched it about 5 different times. And I might be jumping the topic here, but I'm going to just go ahead because we're here now. I've realized that this video is his bitch. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Right? There is this tendency of marginalized groups to reclaim things that have been used to malign them. Things that have been used as a pejorative to them, they reclaim and reappropriate. It's called linguistic resignification, right? That's what it's called. And just as women were called bitches as a pejorative, they reclaim that term and now use it as a term that is appropriated for their own use. So I think what Lil Nas X has done in this video is he's reclaimed every pejorative that's been used to malign him to hell and said, I'm taking this as my own thing and I'm going to use it to project my own image and describe who I am. So he snaps the devil's neck at the end of it and says, I'm the king of hell because this is mine. It's no longer yours. So this is his bitch. Or
You always got to come in here acting up, man. Now, that was brilliant. Now I told you I was gonna tell on you if you ain't tell the whole truth, because I was with you when you first saw it. So let me tell y'all what Myron said. He said all of that stuff when we saw it for the first time, but he
I know
also
exactly what you say.
Do you want to tell him or do you want me to tell him?
Go ahead, Smith. You're already out there. Oh my God. Now beware. My favorite preacher, one of my favorite preachers is in this audience. Let me give this disclaimer. Pope, I know you're watching. I still remember those 7 last words you did back at House of Hope. Please forgive me in advance for this. All right. Go ahead, Smith.
Myron said, what the hell? That was creepy. I tell you what, though, he sure did give the devil a hell of a lap dance. He needs to be training these strippers in Atlanta. I mean, that was a master class.
Tell you, Magic City could hire him as a tutor.
That's why we got Swinging Richards.
Yes, that. You know, Myron is that guy. All right, so that's our initial reaction. I also saw some of the comments. Somebody said that they just cried, you know, when they saw it because of how affirming it was. Some people were kind of creeped out by it, but everybody had different reactions. Grayson, what was your reaction when you saw it?
So I saw it because I have a lot of Black queer friends, and so of course it was blowing up on my timeline before it was blowing up in terms of like the analysis and the outrage. It was like, look what he just did! Oh my gosh, he's bae! Like it was a lot of just excitement. So I watched it, and I was blown away immediately. And then by the end of it, when he's descending into hell, like I immediately knew it was a passion narrative. I immediately knew that he was emulating Jesus as one who was queer, meaning a non-binary person who was both human and divine, being persecuted for loving outside the boundaries that empire had set for him, being sent to hell, and then precisely because of the way that he loved, was able to take the power from the devil, which is a power bottom. That's a sexual position in the gay community that you actually, tops are the people who are supposed to be dominant, but power bottoms are the ones that when they ride, they actually take the power from the people that are supposed to be the dominant people. And so because of Jesus's capacity to love outside the boundaries that we put on Jesus, we killed Jesus, but it is that very love that allowed him to reclaim and then save the world. And so I was blown away, excited, just affirmed. I have never felt so seen, affirmed, empowered by, freed by, challenged by, and just in love with a music video. It has dominated my mind for the last 5 days, and it has made me want to be more outspoken, be more fully myself. And it's everything I'm passionate about: sexuality, gender, race, Christianity. It's artistically incredible. It's a masterclass in social media manipulation. And it is just an exemplary piece of queer art. And I have felt my life changed because of it. And I was immediately doing the gay squeal as soon as I saw it. And it's been going ever since. And I cannot love this music video enough. And I like the song too.
That's what's up. Grayson likes the song. He did the gay squeal. That makes me think about like whenever. So Grayson and I have been working together for what, like 3 years now, going on 3 years. And whenever Grayson is touched by something, he says, "Oh," that's his thing. Whenever he's, "Oh," I'll be like, "Oh my God, Grayson, it's not that serious." That's my dude, man. That's my dude. So there are so many reactions to this video. And first of all, let me shout out some of the people who are with us today, because like I said, this is like a TFC Holy Smokes collab. And we got some Holy Smokes family who's with us right now in the virtual audience. Cody Cox, who's one of our producers, he's here. I saw Karima the Truth. Listen, if you got to check out the Holy Smokes podcast, if nothing else, to hear Karima the Truth, because she's amazing. She's brilliant. You'll also get a chance to hear Myron and Grayson and myself. And this past season, Callie joined us for an episode. Tierney joined us for an episode. Josh Carpenter, who's in the chat, joined us for an episode. Pamela Mary Smith joined us for an episode. So you got to check it out. So everybody had their own reaction to the video. And I know some people who are ready to condemn the video have brought up the fact that there are some people in the LGBTQ plus community who didn't like it. And that's cool. Like, I'm not trying to take away from the people that didn't like it. But two things can be true at once. So there can be people within the community who loved it. There can be people within the community who hated it, and people who were just kind of indifferent and didn't feel either way. So don't take those few voices of people who didn't like it and then say that represents the entire community. Because Black folk, we hate when folk do that to us. We hate when white people try to say Candace Owens speaks for us, right? So let's not do that, right? Let's not take that one voice and make it the voice for the entire community, because everybody had their own reaction to it. So let's dig a little bit deeper, because people were really upset about this imagery. And Myron got into it a little bit a second ago. Like, so let's talk about it, because Lil Nas X put a lot of theological and mythological imagery in this video. And the reality is, I believe a lot of people didn't get it because they don't know what it represents. Because many of our churches require Bible loyalty without fostering Bible literacy. So we got to be loyal to a Bible that we're not literate of. So what we hope to do in this conversation is talk a little bit about what he was actually conveying in this video. I want to start with Callie. Callie has one of the brightest theological minds of anybody I know. Callie, will you share what you saw theologically in this video?
Sure. And before I do, I want to go back to something that you said about the Bible loyalty versus Bible literacy. I think in many cases, particularly conservative evangelical groups, have completely missed the point of this video, because they have been told that Bible literacy is taking the Bible literally, right? And so they're looking at the Bible literally, or this video literally, and completely miss the symbolism altogether. So that's something that I think is an important caveat to this conversation. Like, there are certainly some things in the Bible to take literally, but Jesus taught in parables, y'all. I don't think Jesus actually saw a sower with all the seeds, right? So Jesus, in his own teaching, gives us stuff to interpret. The Bible, I think, should be no different. And then any kind of artistic representation of theological thoughts, we need to treat in a similar fashion. So that's...
Can I say something? In case anybody is wondering, Callie is what a preacher looks like. Continue, Callie.
Well, thank you. So theologically, what I saw in the video, I think absolutely the images of this Eden-esque place really was appealing, because if we think about Eden, it was a place without shame. And so I imagine, like, trying to imagine what it is like to be a queer person without shame, because the moment we realize that we are queer, we are also shamed. It's like those moments when Lil Nas X started seeing like all this, the statues start just like glaring at him. And then like in the scene where he's surrounded by all the people with the blue wigs, he's also surrounded by people who are still stones, who end up stoning him with their own stones. And I think it was actually a butt plug that hit him in the head, but that's beside the point. And so like this idea of like, as queer people, particularly in the church, we don't know what it's like to be ourselves without shame. Because the moment that we realize that part of who we are, we start building up those walls. So I think, to me, that's one of the things that stood out the most in terms of like, it's not exactly theological imagery, but I think it's like a practical theology in the sense that it's faith based on how we as humans interact with scripture, interact with the church, interact with the world.
Oh, I totally think that that's theological imagery, Callie. I mean, I don't think theology has to be limited to. Well, I know that theology doesn't have to be limited to a reading of a certain Bible verse, because if that's the limitation on theology, there was no theology prior to 1600 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So for all of our existence prior to the Bible, there would be no theology if theology was limited to the Bible. There would have been no theology in the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob if theology was limited to the Bible. So I totally agree with you, and I think that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. T, what you see?
I think theologically, the part that stood out to me the most was at the end that he actually defeated the devil. So if we take into consideration Holy Week and how he released the video the Friday before Holy Week, we have to bring that into the conversation, right? So if Lil Nas X, so like if you take the reading of like the interpretation that on Saturday Jesus went down the hill, defeated the devil, came back with keys, you know, Jesus, all the things. So if Lil Nas X is a queer Black Jesus and he went down to hell and defeated the devil and stole his crown, like this is all about Holy Week and about how Jesus and the interpretation of Jesus as a queer Black man. Like, what part don't you people understand? And so just being able to, like what Grayson was saying about queer people being able to see themselves fully in the story, he did his homework. So in order to be able to pull that off, he studied the theology of that belief, which comes from the Apostles' Creed, which originally comes from Catholicism. But he put that into a framework based on something people would already be familiar with if they actually looked for it. So the fact that he was his whole authentic self in a portrayal of a queer Black Jesus and defeated the devil by being himself.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that is something that we talked about a little bit, right? Like, we're cool with the narrative of Jesus descending into hell to defeat the devil. And in many of our churches, we say, you know, Jesus went down to hell on Saturday and preached a revival, right? So Jesus's means of defeating the devil was preaching in many of our narratives. But Lil Nas X's means of defeating the devil was seduction, and it was seduction by a gay man. But yet he defeated the devil. So the outcome is the same in both narratives. Christians celebrate one and condemn the other. What's the difference?
And even in that strain of thought, he defeated the devil by being himself. So Jesus was a preacher. Lil Nas X ain't a preacher. So him being seducing or, you know, like, that's like part of who he is. So he's still being his authentic self. So at the end of the day, he defeated the devil by being himself. That doesn't look the same for everyone. And I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, because people at the end of the day have a serious problem with Lil Nas X just being himself, if we're just gonna really get down to it. So want the man to be himself. Dion, you got anything you want to add right there? Anything you saw theologically on that?
Theologically, I don't really know. All I know is I find it very, very interesting how he used the Garden of Eden, how he basically, you know, puts himself in the position of Jesus, and then descends to hell and kills the devil. And to Tyranny's point, like, really did defeat the devil by being himself. And I just think that is such a message of hope to a lot of people people like myself, a lot of queer people in the LGBTQIA community. And I mean, I don't really have anything more than that.
Oh, that's enough. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know how you can watch the video and not see like pieces of the gospel in it, because it's definitely in there. But I think you have to get over the shock and actually allow the art to move you, and allow the Holy Spirit to allow the Holy Spirit to be Holy Spirit, and you get over your bullshit and actually allow the Lord to speak to you through something that is jarring or alarming or scary or whatever the fuck.
You just said, yeah, you just said something. You really did. When you said something about allowing the Holy Spirit to work even when you're shocked, like when you work through your shock. I think a lot of people refuse to work through the shock. They stopped at shock and said, based on the shock I saw in the clip, I don't even want to watch the video, and I'm going to condemn it before I even experience the entire video, because the shock value scared them. T got her hand up. T, what you want to say?
So this is what I was talking about when I was talking about this earlier with someone else. It's like we demonize things that we don't initially understand. So you don't initially understand Lil Nas X's video, and you're like, oh no, he can't do that. That's not right. And so immediately it's demonic. Immediately it's satanic, because we always demonize things that are considered to be other or that are not the norm. And if we would just stop doing that, we'd be in a much better place. But people don't want to use their brains. They don't want to think critically about things. They just want to be like, no, that's not in the line of A, B, C. So shoo, you demonic thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I saw something earlier that I need to acknowledge right now. Earlier, Dave Garber told me to preach, and that means a lot to me because I'm a big fan of Dave Garber. So when he says preach, Christian, I feel like I have accomplished something. Dave Garber was my Old Testament professor in seminary, and he's a member of the faith community, and I absolutely adore him. Shout out Dave Garber. Myron, what you got, man?
Oh boy, here we go. So let me tell you what shocked me the most. It was the devil, right? So there's this point in the video where he is, he's dancing for the devil. And then when I watched it a second time, I realized, the devil is portrayed as this guy in red with horns, that traditional devil trope. And I thought to myself, that's not the Bible devil, that's Milton's devil. And I wanted to say to evangelicals, if you think that's the devil and that the devil wears red and has horns and has a pitchfork, you've already been deceived. So I tell you what I did. This is how Lil Nas X has helped me grow spiritually, if you would, right? So what I did was I went to the Bible and I said, man, if that's not what the Bible devil looks like, what does the Bible devil look like? So I went and I looked up every time that the devil is referenced in scripture. What are the names that the Bible uses for the devil? And what I realized is, and I've said this before, folks, the Bible is not just a method book to help us get to God. It's a mirror book to introduce us to humanity. I realized that every time I think the Bible introduces us to the devil, it's introducing us to a specific type of devil to show us not to be that. Right? So the first time we see it is the word Satan in the book of Job, which means the opponent. So every time we oppose the work of God, we become the devil. The second
Satan,
right? Satan,
which is
the opposer.
It's not a name, it's a title. The accuser.
It's a title. You got it. He's
right.
Opposing, right? So don't oppose the work of God. The second time is Lucifer, which means son of the morning, which looks more like power than it does a red devil with a pitchfork and horns. So whenever I get overly obsessed with power and bright, shiny things, I become that, as opposed to operating in the work of God, right? He also equates that to the king of Babylon, which is the king of the world, right? And you remember when Jesus was tempted, and he didn't tempt him with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He tempted him with power in Matthew 4, right? And then there is Beelzebub, right? Which means Lord of the Flies. So every time I'm tempted to have allegiance to something that is other than God, it deals with idolatry more than it deals with a pitchfork and horns. And then the last one is the devil, which really means the accuser. And every time I sit in the place of accusation where I'm accusing and not accepting, I become the devil instead of being more like God. And so that's what I saw. It caused me to look as a mirror and say, I don't want to be the devil. I want to be used by God.
He's becoming the mic drop king.
I will take this. All right, I'm excited. I just want to say this is a talent that's only good for Holy Smokes, right? I tried spitting this game to a girl in the club once and it never worked out. Girl, you know the Bible is a mirror, boo. It didn't failed tremendously. Okay?
I would imagine.
Okay.
I would imagine. And I think it's important. I've said this before on Holy Smokes, that when we see that term accuser in Revelation, the Greek word there for accuser is kategoro, where we get the word categorize or category. So what Revelation is saying, what John is saying right there is that people who put others into categories to assess their innate value, they are doing the work of the devil. So when you put somebody in a category just based on their humanity and you diminish them based on a part of their humanity, you are indeed doing demonic work of the devil. So there are a lot of people who are doing demonic work in their efforts to demonize Lil Nas X, and they don't even realize it. And that's out of your Bible. I didn't make that up. That's out of your Bible. Yo, my nephew's on here. That's my nephew right there. Look at that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love that. Grayson, what did you see theologically? Ooh. Grayson.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. What did you see theologically?
Yeah. So I've already made reference to some of it. The passion narrative, everyone's been saying amazing things. And theologically, I think it's like it revealed to me how much Christians need Satan, because we won't take responsibility for the fact that we perpetuate, which means to keep in existence, ideologies that are not of God. So racism, homophobia intersect in the body of Lil Nas X, which is in of itself a theological statement that Christians have not been believing as long as gay people have been embodied theological statements, as long as we've been around. We have been telling them our truth, that we are of God, that we are loved by God, that we bear the image of God. But the bias, the demonic, they see that superimposed, which means placed upon us. And so they choose to believe the lie of the devil, which is homophobia, rather than the truth of our existence, which is we are agapetos, we are beloved, we are the one in whom God is well pleased. And so, of course, they weren't going to listen to Lil Nas X and whatever he had to say in this video, because they've already seen him through the eyes of the devil, which is the eyes of homophobia and racism, and have condemned him from the start, which is exactly what he's telling us. If you're going to make me a devil for the very fact that I was born, then you're going to have to get used to the fact if I start putting on the horns and dancing around. And if I'm going to go to a heaven filled with people like you who made hell on earth for me, I don't want to fucking go there anyway, because what kind of party is that? At least hell accepts me for who I am. And so we are theological statements. We are enfleshed bodies in whom God decided to show God's ever expansive loving capacity. And whenever people start to put boundaries on that God, they are being the devil, as in being idolatrous, as being Lord of the Flies, and attracting shit but calling it gold. And Lil Nas X essentially just tells you, you made me this, now deal with your shit. And instead, they're scapegoating it onto the children. They're scapegoating it onto Satan himself, who is now apparently dead. They're scapegoating it onto culture or whatever, when in fact, it's actually their own immaturity, their own biases, and their own unacknowledged hatred towards people that God made in God's own image. And of course, we also have to acknowledge that Lil Nas X is a Black person who is essentially saying no to the image of Satan that called his ancestors a savage. And he kills the devil that under whose horns, the shadow of whose horns, an entire continent was colonized. So we were talking about his sexuality, but this is also Black liberation. He can't be but both Black and gay. And so the fact that he dismantles this symbol that has made him an oppressed minority and has put him in the lineage of diaspora and enslavement is as liberating to Black people as it is to queer people. But we often get so trapped in our own biases that we choose to deny our liberation, choosing instead the callous comfort of satanic ideologies.
Listen, 1 second.
Even that
Okay.
wasn't enough air horns. I gotta give it another one.
Like you dropped so many, but you kept going, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Listen, Grayson, for that, you don't even have to watch Sister Act 2. Okay?
Wait a minute, you're going too far. You're going too far.
That's too far.
That's too far.
You still need to watch
That's why you-
Sister Act 2.
I still need to see Sister Act 2.
Yeah, he definitely still needs to watch it. Absolutely. You know what's interesting, Grayson? You bring up an amazing point, and I appreciate you for bringing up the fact that within his person, he bears his Blackness and his sexual orientation as a gay man. And the reality is, yes, he not only represents gay people, he represents Black people, but unfortunately, too many Black people don't want his representation because he's gay, because we don't understand intersectionality. And we think that his liberation somehow is in competition with ours, when in actuality, we can't get free if he can't get free. And if Black people would ever get that through our heads, that if all of us ain't free, none of us free. If Black queer people aren't free, Black people ain't free. If Black trans people ain't free, Black people ain't free. If Black women ain't free, Black people ain't free. Like, we all got to get free. So we got to accept the representation of all of us, because that's just one of the things that really grinds my gears. Because as someone who identifies as an ally to the LGBTQ plus community, I have a lot of conversations with heterosexual people who are like picking my brain for stuff, and they just can't seem to connect the dots between liberation for Black gay people and the rest of Black people, as if there's some separation. And they tend to think, oh, well, you know, gay people moving forward in life and they get all this stuff that we ain't got. Like, yeah, you talking about white gay people, though. You're not talking about Black gay people, because there is no advancement that Black gay people have gotten that the rest of us didn't already have. There is none, right? So, you know, that's just one of those things. Okay, but you brought up something, Grayson. You brought up something that I want to tackle. You said, what about the kids? That's been coming up. Oh, Lil Nas X is an artist for the kids. Dion, I know you got something to say about that.
I just get upset because, like, the fact that some of these people would like to make it about, like, they bring up this argument and they fix their hypocritical, crusty mouths to make it about kids when it's not about kids. Like, queer people don't need your existence to exist. Like, what he's doing is he's basically just putting a visual to the story, like the damnation that Christians have given him. And Old Town Road was definitely not about riding an actual horse. He was riding something, but not a horse.
Yeah. And he said that. He said, like, yo, I was talking about sipping lean in Old Town Road. That wasn't for kids. Kids just like got hip to it, and y'all let them listen to it because you weren't paying attention to what I said. And that gets me too. Like, it seems like people will make this argument, and I feel like what they forget is that they're now putting the responsibility that they have as a guardian or a parent
to protect and censor what their children have access to onto a celebrity, to somebody who don't even know their kids. Like, I'm sorry, it's not Lil Nas's job. It's not Culture's job. It's not nobody's job but yours. You decided to have a kid, so you need to be attentive to what they're seeing and what they're not seeing. And if you got a problem with it, then you got to do something about it. But we can't expect this grown 18-year-old man to, or however old he is, like who's living his life and doing his thing, to be concerned about your children.
Yeah.
No, hail to the no.
All right, Callie, you had your hand up there. What you got to say? What about the kids?
What about the kids? So I just got one thing to say. Like, even if like Old Town Road like got all the kids all hyped and everything, I'm going to equate it to a restaurant. If Applebee's has your kids' favorite chicken strips, are you going to call them and demand that they stop serving your favorite margarita just because your kid can't consume it? No. Like, the same entity can produce stuff that is like good to your kid and good to you. So that's all I gotta say there.
Yes, thank you.
I do have to call out the homophobia of mentioning Applebee's in this panel. That's all I have to say.
Wait, I missed that one.
I missed that one too.
Wait, did I just project Applebee's? Is this a Freudian slip that I'm gonna have to like deal with?
I mean, I could just be missing something.
I pictured Applebee's. I'm condemning myself. Okay.
All right, T. Do you have any thoughts on this whole thing about his influence on kids and the implications thereof?
I think that when we cannot find a better answer for why we don't like something, we try to scapegoat what it's doing to children as a reason for why we can continue to not like it, even though that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And so I think the fact that parents and guardians and people who have influence over children's lives give them access to Facebook and YouTube without parental controls, and then they watch whatever it is that they want to watch without being censored. Now we have to have a conversation about, well, what about Lil Nas X's video? Well, what about all the rest of the videos they shouldn't be watching? So why is this one any different? So I think we just use that. And like, I do think it's an important question. You should be watching what your children are watching and having conversations with them about it. But that doesn't mean that this video shouldn't exist. It just means that maybe your child shouldn't be watching it. So like, if you don't want your child to listen to Up by Cardi B, then don't let them listen to Up by Cardi B. But that's the same level of you not wanting them to listen to this song by Lil Nas X. So
even Cardi B pauses Up.
Cardi B doesn't let her daughter listen to her songs.
Yes.
So,
and that's called being a parent. Period.
Right.
But it's not apparent to most people.
Okay, I will allow that one.
I'm not allowing it. Grayson, what's up?
So, and I know Myron hasn't gone yet, so I'll be shorter with this one. But first, it is a heteronormative, which means heterosexual cisgender, which means you identify with the sex you were assigned at birth in terms of your gender expression. So heteronormative. It is a heteronormative question in and of itself, because you're assuming that the kids are straight when you ask that question. What about the straight kids? They're going to not be straight anymore and aren't going to keep repeating this pattern of domination in their own bodies because we're teaching them to hate gay people. So they don't want the video to exist because they don't want Lil Nas X to exist. And that's going to be the influence on their kids, that then they're going to mess up the family, mess up this patriarchal domination that straightness is supposed to maintain. That's first. Second, what about...
I'll cut you off this time. Okay, go ahead. What's the second part?
Second, if gay kids see this, I doubt they'll be as scandalized, because if I had seen this as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, it probably would have taken me a lot less time to reach the point of loving myself and snapping the satanic neck of homophobia than it did without seeing that video and without having Lil Nas X as a major figure releasing the #1 song in the world about two men having sex. So what about the gay kids? They're left out because of your overly protective helicopter homophobia. Third, What About the Kids has a long ass history of queer oppression and racist oppression. Those scary black men with their masculinity, they're going to come get the women and the kids. Those scary gays with their cakes and their marriages and their weddings and their existences, they're going to come after the kids. If you can get people afraid of what might happen to children and fetuses, you can burn a country to the ground.
Jeez. Grayson is, oh God.
One thing
I
that gets
wasn't
me-
playing when he said he's been thinking about this nonstop for the past 5 days. I just want y'all to know he's on a roll.
For real. He has been sitting with this. Randall?
Listen, I yield the balance of my time. I don't need to say anything after that. Go to the next question, please. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Grayson's show. We're all just living in it.
yeah, that's it. That's it. I mean,
I want to say something because it's so interesting to me how, what was it that like WAP came out, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion came out, and I don't know, it's just so interesting to me that the church has all these issues with women owning their sexuality and with LGBTQIA people owning their sexuality and putting it in their music or having it like in people's faces. But what about all these other songs? So it's okay for their straight men and straight boys to have all of these things and for them to be as promiscuous as they want, to have all the raunchiest lyrics. And it's almost like it's something that is just a right to those people, but it's only problematic when women and queer people do it. And that's just not cool at all because it's just a double standard.
Absolutely. And for all the people in my generation, if you have ever danced, bumped, listened to any record from 3 6 Mafia, don't try to act like your problem with this song is the hell imagery. 3 6 Mafia. They name themselves 666. All right. So if you ever bumped any songs from Juicy J, I don't want to hear anything you got to say about, oh, the devil's in the video. The devil is in their name. If you ever listen to 3 6 Mafia stuff, like they got some pretty raunchy, like crazy stuff. Now, I'm saying that because I listen to 3 6 Mafia, but I know how to compartmentalize. I know how to get what I want out of that and then leave the rest, right? So this thing about the kids, and then we're gonna do one more question and we out of here. This thing about the kids, and Ariana brought it up just a second ago, because most people of faith have not been able to reconcile the humanity of Q plus people. We project that onto everything that we see in culture. Because we haven't been able to reconcile that gay people, lesbian, LGBTQ plus, Q plus people exist as they are. So we're constantly trying to change them because we don't really believe that they are who they say they are. We believe that God created them to be something else instead of believing the God in them when they tell us who they are. So when we see a representation of gay love, or in this case, gay lust in a video, and I use the term gay lust because that's exactly what Lil Nas X said. It's an expression of gay lust. He said the same type of lust when, you know, it's a guy and a girl in the video. He said, I want to normalize it. So what we do is, because we haven't reconciled that, then we try to find all of these reasons why it shouldn't be seen in culture. But in actuality, maybe that gay kid needs to see somebody being themselves so they can be comfortable being themselves. And if gay people being gay is going to make a straight kid gay, why is it that all of the years of media that had nothing but straight people didn't turn gay kids straight? Can somebody please riddle me that? Gay people in media does not make kids gay. I want to say it one more time. Gay people in media does not make kids gay. Your parenting does not make kids gay. The church you go to does not make kids gay. Stop it. That's
Who
gay.
does? Who does, Christian? Name it. Who does?
God makes kids gay.
There you go.
All right. So last thing, and then let's get out of here because we've spent enough time on this. What's one thing you want to leave with people about this Lil Nas X piece? This, like, the one thing, if you got to leave people with one thing, what is the thing you want to leave people with? And then we're going to shut it down. Myron, go ahead. What's the one thing you want to leave with people tonight?
I think that we should be more concerned with the devil inside than the devil out there. Because we've spent our time as the church accusing Lil Nas X, accusing Black gay people. We just accuse everybody of wrong when we should be looking at the devil on the inside. Here is scripture to back me up. Paul said this, that every person, when they are tempted, is drawn away by their own lust. In other words, the devil didn't make you do it. Something inside you made you do it. And so you should be concerned about yourself before you start accusing everybody out there.
Yes, sir. Spoken like the true mystic that you are, sir. T, what do you want to leave with us tonight?
I think that the point that I'm stuck on is you defeat the devil by being yourself. So be yourself. Like, show up in your whole, full, authentic self. And that's it.
And that's enough. And that's enough. And if only people would allow others to just be themselves, what a world we would live in. Dion,
what a world.
Dion, what do you want to leave people with?
I just want to leave people with pretty much everything that Tierney and Myron said. Honestly. And just for them to know how important this piece of art is, not only for faith, but also for culture, and for people in the LGBTQIA community, and Black people as well. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Callie, what about you? What do you want to leave us with tonight?
Yeah, so what I want to leave us with kind of brings us back to the beginning of the conversation, where this video does have some things in it that shock us, but every moment of growth, or not every moment of growth, most moments of growth have growing pains, right? So sit with it, figure out why it's making you uncomfortable, and see what it's revealing to you about yourself that you need to address, like Myron was talking about. So that would be what I would hope people would take away from this, is like, sit with that shock moment for a little bit to figure out what is that trying to tell you about yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Grayson, what about you, sir?
Whew, how to sum it up. I would say that what Lil Nas X says, we haven't talked about, and this isn't a criticism, it's just an observation. We haven't talked about what he did surrounding the release of the song, which puts a very fine point on what he's doing, both theologically, mythologically, and socially. So when the song was released, or music video and song were released, he posted a screenshot of what Kid Fury and Crystal call an iOS press release. They're the hosts of The Read. Tierney and Maya and Pam's one of our favorite podcasts. Two queer people being amazing, and Black queer people being amazing, Black and queer. Anyway, so he posted an iOS press release where it says, "Dear Montero," and he talks about, he writes a letter to his 14-year-old self and says, I made a video, I made a song. It's about a boy that I met last summer, and I knew that we promised ourselves we would never come out. I knew that we told ourselves we would never be that kind of gay, in quotes. Because another aspect of it is the difference between a respectable gay who just aspires to heteronormativity with the same genitals involved, and gays, queers, who seek to find liberation for all. So that's another aspect, but not that kind of gay. I was afraid to make this video because people would say I have an agenda, and I do. And it's to let queer people live our fucking lives and people get out of our business. And I knew I had to do this, and I had to do this for you, and I had to do this because it would open doors for so many other people. So that's why he made the video. He said it himself. And second, after the backlash started, which he prepared for, he tweeted, "I've been preparing for this rollout for 9 months. Y'all aren't gonna win." So he knew it would cause outrage and backlash, and that was intentional, because sometimes we have to get shocked out of what we've always believed to be able to have some distance from it. George Floyd demonstrated that. We have to be shocked out of our complacent racism to recognize how we've been complicit in it. And if that didn't make you uncomfortable, you should be uncomfortable. Similarly, Lil Nas X said, he tweeted, I hope y'all, to all of those who are being mad at this video, I hope you stay mad. I hope you stay big mad, because I hated myself as a teenager for all the shit that y'all preached that would happen to me when I was gay. Now I want you to feel the anger that you made us feel ourselves, and that's about LGBTQ people. So I think that's what I want to leave us with, what he himself said. And of course, he's been trolling people. We don't even have to get into the shoes, which is just a publicity stunt. I don't even know if they actually contain blood, whatever. But what he himself said, beyond the trolling, beyond the fronting and the artistry, even is, I am writing this to my younger self to free him so that I can free everyone else. And if that ain't Jesus, I don't know what is.
Yes, sir. I'll leave you with this. And we'll be back on Saturday for Holy Saturday worship. Or you can join us tomorrow night for Holiday Hangs, our game night. I'll leave you with this, the words of Jesus. Somebody asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment in all of the law? Basically, Jesus, how do you sum up the entire faith? And Jesus said, here it is. Love God with your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength, and then also love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said, everything in the law and everything in the prophets hinge on these two, which means love for God and love for neighbor as self is not two separate commandments. It's one commandment with two parts. Because he said everything hinges on these two. You can't take one without the other. You can't understand love for God if you don't understand it through the lens of love for neighbor as self. So when we look at what's going on with Lil Nas X, and we can talk about what was petty and what may have been inappropriate about his video in certain settings, right? Like, of course, we're not going to show his video to the children's ministry on Sunday because it's not appropriate in that setting, right? But just because it's not appropriate doesn't mean it's immoral. We could have started this video and the 6 of us took a nap. Sleeping is not immoral, but in this setting, it's inappropriate. So when we look at Lil Nas X and we consider what Jesus said, everything hinges on loving God and how you love your neighbor as a reflection of how you love yourself, which means if you want to love God, you got to love your neighbor. You got to love yourself, which means you shouldn't do things that harm yourself and you shouldn't do things that harm your neighbor, because when you harm yourself and when you harm your neighbor, you're causing harm to God. So when you practice a theology that harms other people, don't be surprised when they turn that theology back on you. That's all I got. Y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you next time.